Welcome back to the Strength Starts Here podcast with Detroit Shanks, the man
Leonard.
himself, Paul Leonard from Powerlifting Illustrated, and I'm the boss, Rafe. We're here to kind of overview our Viking Strong, our third annual Viking Strong comp that we had this past weekend on May 21st, 2022 at our West location here in Tucson. I think it went great. What did you guys think of the whole event as it went, Paul?
I thought it was excellent. We had 17 competitors that day. I think off the top of my head, we had 4 females and 13 guys went at it. It's the second or third time. I know you've had multiple strongman contests, so this is your second Viking because you've also
third Viking.
Third Viking.
It's our 7th actual sanctioned strongman competition. Yep. If you're including the Static Monsters in the Battle of the Beasts, the one that we do in December.
Ran like a well-oiled machine. I think from start to finish, we ran through 5 contested events. There was no injuries, great performances, no equipment failures, got it down to a science. You see that your spotting, loading crew, and the sports staff have it down. It's like a get-together of a family. It's fun. Everybody can display their abilities and so forth. You had some good vendors there, and cool swag was had by all.
You know, I think it's really cool that we had 4 females this time. I think that's the most females we had at an event, and I like to see that. I mean, we coach one that was there, Ashley, and it's just really nice when other females can compete with them. They create a little family there, you know.
Yeah.
I think as dudes, we always have that when we go to the gym. Hey, there's a buddy, there's a buddy. Mm-hmm. These gals sometimes are on their own. They're kind of just off their own. So it was really cool. They come together. They're all buds. They stay in touch after. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we had a competitor come down from Texas, and she fell right in, with the other competitors. And yeah, like you said, just kind of meshed and friends. And I think they went and hung out afterwards. And
they did. They went to one of the sponsors. They were having a discount over at his restaurant, so they went and hung out there, yeah. Go ahead. I lost my train of thought. What I was going to say there, but
I think the biggest thing too, and Paul kind of touched on, is there was no misloads. We did do some weight changes.
That's dynamic. That happens occasionally.
Yeah, whoever designed the comp, whoever that was.
I'm not blaming anybody.
Whoever did it, might have gone a little heavy on some events.
Yeah,
so
dude, not everyone is as strong as you. You know what I mean?
Well, no. I just want to push people, But no, so we realized some of those weights were just unattainable, for the men and women, and adjusted, on the fly. Everybody was in the loop on it, and they were all, in agreement to, adjust weights. So.
And I think we had a guy that signed up right at the very last minute there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's ever touched a strongman implement in his life.
No. And
that's pretty cool to just see a corn-fed dude coming out of nowhere.
Yeah, is that Lucas Rachesky?
Yeah, Lucas.
Yeah, novice class. Really impressed by him. I talked to him after the comp and invited him over for the Strongman Saturdays we put on. And, zero equipment. Trains in his gym or trains in his garage.
I think he has
an LA Fitness.
I think he built his own rack.
I believe so. Yeah,
it might even be a wood one. I didn't get that far into it. But
yeah,
it might even be
very new to the sport. Just loves the sport. Loves the idea of it. He was disappointed that there wasn't a truck pull in this one, and I told him, hey man, come back in December. We got a big truck we're pulling. But yeah, no, and he ended up winning the novice class, and very impressive guy. Never touched a stone before, I think.
Great.
Didn't bring any tacky, borrowed, his competition's tacky. I think Brandon was the one that offered him his tacky, and did it in his little, dad shorts and T-shirt and just went to town. Super impressive, though. Yeah.
Yeah, and within the same weekend, sometimes I like to look at the 30,000-foot view, if you will. Within the same weekend, we had, CJ, Grant, and Hubert went to competed at the LA Fit Expo Ode Hagen show. So, because they're normally a staple at our show, whether they're competing or not. So,
or officiating. I mean, CJ's
just
helped us out, Grant's helped us out.
One big family, And my friends at American Raw had a powerlifting contest up there in Chandler this weekend that was sponsored by the World Russian Powerlifting Federation. So, we were talking. What's that?
Christopher Knight over there.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. His shop. So, And then we were talking before the cameras rolled that it's World's Strongest Man is within driving distance of us. So I know Don went over there. We were talking about that, how there's people probably going over to see that. So the opportunities to see, participate, and just be involved in strength sports is never been greater in Arizona. We're very fortunate for that.
Especially right now too. I mean, the last couple of years it's slowed down a lot. Now there's a ton of competitions on the calendar in almost every sport too. You know, in powerlifting and bodybuilding, but even strongman this year, there's a lot more to
way more. It used to be one a year here in Arizona. Just Arizona's strongest would be in Phoenix, and you wouldn't even hear about it sometimes after the fact. It was quiet, and
we do 3 down here ourselves, you know, every year now. So.
And then Flagstaff. When was the Flagstaff show? Because you did that.
So the Paris last one was that was
3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, April.
Mid-April.
And
they're having a powerlifting meet too, right? It's coming up.
I think that one's this Saturday.
Yeah, I mean it's
right up in Phoenix, and then the one. I think they had a group go down and do the one at American Raw, if I remember right. They were down there. So, you know, the Power Sloss, and then, you know, the Evolve crew, we'll call them, you know, CJ, Grant, Hubert, and them, you know, with them dispersed out. You know, that took a chunk of our competitors off the books, but definitely, you know, still had a great turnout.
We had, a 2 or 3 novice competitors that had, 2 of them came up from Green Valley, Sierra Vista. Mm-hmm. So those guys don't even have equipment that they're training at, you know. So there's very few gyms that are actually set up with a decent amount of strongman equipment. You might get a log press here, maybe an axle bar, but, you know, it's kind of hard to find all the implements. And then we're always adding new implements and changing new implements. But for the folks watching, our Viking Strong Comp is built around the Viking press. That's a staple of that competition. Everything else can change around it, but we usually have a yoke in there at some point. And some sort of a stone load or stone over bar. Our our Battle of the Beast that's coming up in December, that one's a semi-truck pull this year. So it's a truck pull of sorts, but it'll be hand over hand rope on a truck pull. Hoping we get that Volkswagen Beetle done for a yoke walk on this one.
Yeah, that'll be cool to see.
I might be picking that up tomorrow and bringing it over to this shop to work on it, so that'd be fun.
Yeah.
And then definitely do a stone series, most likely.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer.
Yeah.
Any strongman competition has to have a stone series in it.
They're just brutal.
A stone event, at least.
They're brutal.
Yeah.
Might even throw a Husafel in there. We don't know yet. Oh. Those are brutal.
Yeah, no, we do actually have the events chosen for Viking.
The battle?
Battle, yes.
It's up on our Instagram page and our website, Be Strong Powerhouse.
Yeah. So going back to the Viking, though, you know, just what was your favorite event to see?
Probably the circus dumbbell, because it's pretty freaking challenging for a lot of people. I mean, the size of handle, the awkwardness of it, especially some of the newbies not really practicing with much and watching them, and then actually getting them, you know, getting a couple of reps in there is pretty cool. I think that one's more technical, I think, and it requires a little bit more than just brute strength.
Right.
So I like that one a lot.
Yeah, with that one. I don't know. I think I'm probably going to say the Viking press.
Viking press itself.
Yeah, that's always a good one. You don't see it often. You know, really it's kind of a piece of equipment that not many gyms or competitions have in it. So it's always fun to see. You know, and I think people get worried about the weight that we put on it. You know, but
just lift
with
it.
You're right. Like
just
that's my thing. But so it's cool to see these guys, you know, come up, and especially like the novice guys who've never touched it before, come up, see that, you know, there's, I don't know, I think for the novice class we had like 450 pounds or something added to the apparatus, you know, and they're, you know, concerned about the weight, and then end up knocking out a few reps, and you know, it's cool to see that, you know, that resilience to be able to push past that.
I also like the medleys. I think those are good, and they really did really well on some of my competitors did, and I like to see that they did pretty well on that.
I was impressed by how many people completed that medley.
Yeah,
you know, it wasn't light. It wasn't a light yoke. It wasn't a light keg.
And it was down with the yoke, sprint back for the keg, down with the keg, and then take the yoke back.
Yeah, so it was 160 feet that we did total?
Yes.
You
No,
know, and then-
120. 40, 40, 40. Oh, but they got to run sprint back. So
Yeah, and then the sprint back, right?
yeah,
160. So, and some of the times were
Is 80 seconds? What was
pretty.
it?
I think we
what
gave
was
them
your-
75 seconds.
75,
Gave
okay.
them 75, but I think some of the guys were coming across, and some of the females too. 20 seconds, 23 seconds, something like that, I think.
Well, and I had never seen it contested that way in my experience with males going versus females, but it worked so good.
Yeah,
It
Head-to-head
really
like
did.
that?
It worked good because it was like dead on heats, and people could recognize that there's different weights, but it was fantastic. It worked good, and it expedited the contest because within reason. But everybody wants to see a contest on. It's no different than the NFL. Why it's popular? It's the most popular 3-hour show every week, right?
Right.
You get a strongman contest like we did from stem to stern in 4 hours. Everybody's happy, and it's not an endurance event per se, but it really worked well. That medley was. The whole contest was smooth. It was very efficient.
And then the head-to-head, too, they're pushing themselves more than they normally will.
Yes,
yeah,
100%.
You stand me next to someone, like, I don't care who that is, I'm beating them.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, you might drop it, but
Yeah.
we're
Right.
still going to
You're very cognizant. You might be a little dizzy, but you notice. You look over your shoulder or sideways. You say, "Yep, this is what's going on."
Yeah,
what was your
absolutely.
favorite event, Paul?
I do like the farmer's walk with the girders. I like your steel girders. Farmer's walk.
I-beams that we built
Yeah,
out of
I've
them?
never got a chance to play around with those yet.
Most
so,
people do not like that while they're competing on them. That's I think the biggest complaint I hear is that, oh man, those farmers handles suck. Well, yeah, but that's strongman for
it's
you,
challenging.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. I think a bigger handle is way worse for me because I got small hands.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I don't like using those red ones over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of our competitors, Eric, he was in the master's class, beat his legs up on that farmer's.
I see. I can see where that could happen. Bring an extra pair of knee sleeves, put on your calf.
Yeah. Yeah, so no, they beat you up, and that's part of the challenge, right? Like, controlling the implement, taking that physical, pain that's being caused to you and exerting, right? So,
I've always liked about strongman because my background was powerlifting first, and people that come into it, you're doing a contest so the competitors will get the best chance to display their strength and skill, right? That's what you're primarily interested in. But it's not bad to have an appeal to the spectators, and that's why strongman is like the circus dumbbell. Wow, look at how big that is, And they say what general population, 99% of the population has never had their body weight over their head in any way. Now they're doing it almost in one arm, right? The visual effect, and the same thing with the I-beams. People are like, that's heavy,
Well, the head-to-head, everybody gets into it, man. They're doing a relay race in a way, or a race.
Yes.
yeah, and you can look at those handles, right, and go, I know that's heavy. And those ones really are. They're 120 pounds empty.
Yeah.
And I think people can, visually in the crowd see that and respect it. Where, maybe if we had some weights loaded up on, like plate loaded farmer's handles, it's less showmanship, I guess, right?
Right. Well, all the events we did, like down the road, let's say sponsorship grows, and I've seen this, and you all have too. Like I've seen the Viking press contested with a huge log. I've seen it with slot machines. I think little motorcycles. Like, so the average, if you get sponsorship, if you get the local bike dealership, so well, we'll give you a bike, and you could put it up there on the machine that day. It's just so people can appreciate it. That's kind of the magnitude of the visual magnitude of the keg we run with, because they're like, oh, I know that's heavy. No, those are heavy then some. That's not Miller Genuine Draft. I mean, that is heavy as heck.
Well, and then also, I think you mentioned this during the show. You can go to this another event in a different state or a different promoter with the same events, and the tools they're using are going to be different.
Oh, yeah.
Their handles might be measured way different. They might be longer, shorter, fatter handles, a little bit taller, a little bit shorter, can be very different. Every stone not perfectly round,
No.
every stone varies in weight and size and texture and how used it is, how new it is, all that too. So it's just all those little factors that you can only just perform at your best by practicing every week at, right? It's not like a barbell where you get underneath it and it's the same size barbell, it's the same weights on it, you know exactly what you're going for. You got other factors that you can only control X on, right?
Well, and that's kind of the funny thing too, right? Like yesterday I was doing farmers, and I get down to the end and doing the math in my head. I'm like, man, this is only like a 450-pound deadlift. Why am I struggling to pick this up, right? But 225 in each hand is different than 450 on a barbell for a deadlift, and that's kind of the fun about it all, right?
Well, and I was seeing this with some of the females too, especially when I'm coaching them. They're like, well, I know what their deadlift is, and some of these handles might be more than their deadlift.
Oh, yeah.
So as long as they can stand up with it, it's just a different, and they don't think about that, they can do it half the time.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and like you remarked earlier, how you're looking, and I saw a clip today of them getting ready to do the World's Strongest Man this year. They let them go out and practice, but they don't film that, right? And they're playing with the car walk, and it's similar. They're probably going to do a VW.
It's like a 70s VW this year, isn't
Probably because it's California and all that stuff.
Giants Live, usually uses 2003, 2010 version. So it's kind of cool to see that classic one back down in Sacramento.
Totally. That's the beauty to me of strongman too, is that, like you said, when you're in it, you're constantly looking for new things to lift, and you might come across this, and it's now so mainstream that, like we were talking earlier before the mics were hot. Rogue this year at the Arnold. Rogue is based in Columbus, and it debuted their new squat bar. They debut equipment that is fantastic. If you're like me and you believe in the conjugate system, it's amazing to see new equipment released that's going to be challenging. It's not just a marketing ploy. It legitimately is good ways to test and things like the sandbags that they've improved and the different things, the implements that they throw and lift. It's just amazing, the evolution of the sport and what's out there.
Yeah, it really is, because we went from this, what can you find in the garage? What can you find in the workshop?
Build?
Yeah, right. And then now Rogue is stepping up and building specialty bars, right? Because there was a slight camber to that bar they had at Rogue, right?
It was similar
Yes.
to a
Could hold
Duffalo
15.
bar, but it was, what did they call the bar?
I forget what they call it, but it was
what they-
arched.
Yeah,
it was like a
considerably, so they
Duffalo,
could
but
fit
it was
under it.
way big.
I think
was
it had like
Right,
a
it's
15
amazing.
1,500-pound limit, I think.
Probably at least.
So just incredible equipment coming out of it. Something you talked on, though, the World's Strongest Man's going on right now. And now I don't believe that anybody believes that our competitors this weekend are ready for World's Strongest Man, but a fun little, tidbit on it. They were the heavyweight men and the middleweight men, if I remember right, were holding a 250 keg. They were running with a 250 keg. Well, the kegs at World's Strongest Man this year are 265. So you're only doing, so it's kind of cool to see that, like, okay, like I can get there, if you stay at it.
So this is
That kind of struck me earlier when I was watching those snippets of them testing equipment.
and this also kind of goes back to that evolution of the sport of strongman too. 10 years ago we're lifting heavier implements because there's a lot of bigger dudes, right?
Right.
And now we've seen a little bit of change, because what would the keg have been 10 years ago? 350 maybe?
Oh, yeah, I think they were pulling 300-pound bags and stuff back
Right.
then, and now it's 260, 250 on bags.
So they're looking for a little bit more athleticism, a little more
absolutely.
speed, a little more agility, as well as just brute strength.
Yeah.
I like that part too, because a little more functionality. Everybody can get into it a little bit more, and I think as a sport, when they're trying to grow it, like you said,
Yeah.
guys that are in our gym are doing those weights, and they're like, oh shoot, I can get there.
Yeah, and the transition of the sport is great. Sucks for somebody, like myself, who chased a body weight to be able to compete at those levels. And now now I've got to drop weight to come back, so I'm more competitive on like the medley events and stuff like that. That's the only downfall to it. If you were chasing that body weight, now you got to cut out the Oreos, which we know is not going to happen.
She's got to increase cardio.
Exactly.
But that's just as hard as cutting out Oreos. So
I'll just do Oreos while I do cardio.
is that how it works?
Zeroes out, I think. Yeah. And so it's really fun to see, and I think just like the evolution of our events, from the first year we did the unsanctioned
First
Battle of the Beast, 2019, December 2019.
It'll be 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. So that's 18.
Was it 18? Wow, time flies.
Yep. Our first sanctioned one was 19, so this will be 18. This will be third sanctioned, fourth real.
Yeah. So I go back and I watch, videos in my library and everything like that, and just our evolution, from that day to what we're doing now and what we're planning to do in December.
Because I think the max yoke on that was like 4 or 5. It wasn't very much.
Oh yeah, it wasn't very heavy.
No, we were doing an axle and a log Medley and
245, I think, was
Yeah.
on the log. So yeah, absolutely.
middleweight weights.
Yeah.
Lightweight weights for some of these guys now.
Yeah. Should be middleweight weights. I make them lightweight weights. We'll work on that.
Yeah.
For all future competitors, I'll work on it.
We're working on it as a crew.
Yeah.
Well, that's the next step, I think. Evolution in strongman as it's grown. I mean, obviously the king of the jungle, the world's strongest man. You know, it's become, you know, the Brian Shaw, the Thor. You know, 6+, 400+. But within the last 10 years too, the lightweights like CJ and the Clash of the Coast and stuff, the lightweights have gotten a lot of press on ESPN, etc. We do need the 275, 285 pound class. I think it's going to rise to prominence coming up.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so.
As someone who's, you know, that's a more attainable weight, that'd be awesome. You know,
I think you get more competitors.
Yeah.
Because there's only a certain amount of dudes that are built like Brian Shaw and Thor.
That's right.
There's a lot more of us that are in that 275 range.
Well, and then
anybody can do it, you know.
Look at some of the competitors this year, you know, like Rob Kearney, he's sub 300s. Alexei Novikov, when he won, he was sub 300s. You know, so they're
still big dudes.
Martins, I think, was 320, 330 when he won. You know, and if I remember right, I think I heard he's a little lighter this year. You know, a little bit more athletic. So you don't have to be that 450 pounder anymore.
Kind of goes back to what you said. It's like you don't necessarily have to chase a body weight now. Chase the weight of the implements.
Yeah.
Work on your functionality and your strength that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, add that cardio, add that hit style training into your lifts.
Which is the scary part about someone like CJ, right? Is that he's lifting and competing in heavyweight shows as, you know, under 105, you know, under 98 kilo, you know, 90 kilo. So, but still competitive in both classes. And that's the real threat that's coming up. I do think these under 105s, the Clash on the Coast and those, I think that those, you know, similar, we've talked before about how, you know, I think the 181 to 220 class in powerlifting is the most impressive as of recent, right? Because
I mean, you go back 10 years, it was still pretty impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you have more now.
For sure.
And I think in strongman, you have more of these lightweight strongmen that are just dominating, you know, and it's really cool to see, you know, somebody like Nicholas Canby, you know, pressing insane amounts of weight at under 231. That's crazy.
It's a good and it's a good thing for new guys coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But for some of the big dudes that are already in, it's like, what the where did this dude come from? You know, he's 90 pounds lighter than me, and he's right there with me.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. The threat is
But that's just the evolution of the human.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it in every sport. I mean, every sport almost. It's pretty incredible. I mean, you mentioned powerlifting.
Yeah.
You're seeing it. I mean, bodybuilders in the 70s were 225 on stage. They're 295 on stage. Yeah. There's a group of them, you know? Yeah. So, you know, you're getting that whole, how far can we push the human body and the human limits? Yep. I don't think we've seen it yet. It always improves, man. Since I've been alive. I mean, it's always going to go that way. I don't foresee it stopping. I think people just get more creative and the science helps out a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
And with it becoming more of a profession, right? Like people we know, like within our state, the strongest guy really you'd say is Jerry Pritchett, right? Proven, if you will. But he's always worked. He's been a machinist and he works, you know, he's always had a job. So not saying there's nothing wrong with work, but if that was your full-time job, what could you know, the greatest powerlifter in the last 25 years, Ed Cohen, that was his job. It was what it was. I think John Hack is amazing at 200 pounds, lifting Kazmaier type deadlifts. You're like 880 deadlift at what, 200 pounds? It's amazing. And his bench, it's amazing. He's an engineer, so he's employed. But if you can do it for a living, you can do it better, right? You can rest better. You can rest at will, and you have the money and the means to do it full time.
Yeah, you almost can justify more time on it if it is your job, right? You know, so you go to work for 8 hours. Well, I got 8 hours a day. I'm going to be doing recovery work, doing training, doing this, doing that. And there's a lot more. And I don't know if in the powerlifting world it's the same right now, but in the strongman world, there's more and more people quitting their day jobs to do strongman professionally, you know, because of the sponsors, because of how big it's getting, you know, and you can get you know, an entire career based off of this. And if you do it right, you know, I'll say Brian Shaw's probably doing it right. he's creating a legacy of 3 different brands,
And I think
based off of strongman.
I think we see that in bodybuilding and powerlifting.
Oh yeah,
I mean, Dave Tate, and his guys and his crew off of that. I mean, you got the fifth set. What's his name? He came out of Dave Tate gym. I forget his name. Sorry. But same thing. They were power lifters. They had other jobs, but now they're blogging for the websites and the information and writing books and coaching and online coaching. I think you see a lot more of that now than you have in the past for the powerlifting and bodybuilding as well, especially bodybuilding.
Bodybuilding, yeah, that's
because you're getting that social media influence to where you can actually create a living. So it's not physically driving to a job, but you're sitting at your desk. You're programming other people on the information that you already have used yourself in your 10, 20 years, whatever you're doing, and you're creating a business off of that. For us, for example, we have a gym, right? Out of those 2 facilities, we can sponsor these events. Not a ton of money in those events, but it brings the community together. Hopefully brings you some training and just grows that way. So I think once you get to that elite level, and strongman still, it's probably, it's still in my head, small sport, but it's probably,
absolutely.
It's smaller than bodybuilding worldwide, but bodybuilding I still think is looked at as just a very small sport too. And it's only the top 3% in that organization that actually make a really good living on it.
Yeah.
Everybody else is supplementing in some way part-time, right? But the guys that have multiple, that own the gyms, that are trainers, that do that for a living, tend to be a little bit better at it because they focus right around their whole thought process is one thing. Instead of going to your construction job, then coming home and trying to have to lift all this weight. Well, you've just been doing it all day, 7 days a week, running your guides, et cetera.
Yeah.
You have any input on any of that?
Well, the best PED in the world is sleep. I mean, don't kid yourself, right? You know what I'm saying? We can say it from experience. If you've never had, about 19 years ago, I had twins. So when you don't sleep, I mean, it's a market. You can't think straight.
And when you have twins, you don't sleep.
You don't sleep. Yeah, you're guilty.
Well, and this is,
You do.
I've just gone through this in this last year's prep. I was averaging 5 hours of sleep. This year's prep, I'm averaging 7 a night, and I feel a ton different. My body looks a ton different. I can interact with people still.
It's quality sleep now too. It's the type of sleep.
It's the type of sleep. But before, I just wasn't sleeping. I was just so busy. My head was going crazy. I just had stuff to do. I still do just as much or more. I've just adjusted my schedule. More efficient, right?
Yeah.
And that sleep, like you said, it is the best thing. That's the only thing that I've really changed from last year to this year, and I feel like a different person. So
Yeah, 2 hours is like 25 or 30% more. It makes you feel 100%
insane,
better.
yeah.
You know, it's if you've seen, I'm sure you have, the Netflix. I love how the strength sports get plenty of good attention on like Netflix and stuff. You know, like if you've seen Eddie Hall's documentary.
On the Generation Iron movies.
Yes, the one I've seen it on Kai Green before. That's it shows how you eat. The bodybuilders, I don't know that much, but the thing about Eddie Hall, like he was close, and then he was also a diesel mechanic, and he was working. But then he found some sponsor that said, "I'll sponsor you for a year," and he built his own homemade hyperbaric chamber out in his. I mean, you first, but
Yeah. His wife would have to come out and put him in and take him out.
Blow up, but the lengths he went to get recovery from his incredible workload, and
it paid off.
It paid off for him. It was, know.
And I think people watching, young dudes that are getting into this or gals, you still got to put the time in. You're not just going to get picked up because this is your second show and you feel like you're going to get a sponsor and you want to do this for a living. Having the dream to do it for a living is outstanding. Having the dream to make money at it and do what you love is great. But you know what? I think a sponsor, and if I was ever in a position to sponsor someone, I'm going to want to see the hardest worker, not just in the gym, but in his entire life. And those are the guys that get picked up. You know, like you said, he's building his own thing. He's being creative. He's working as a diesel. He's raising his family, and he's also doing this, right?
Right.
That's more impressive.
100%. And again, I won't change my opinion that sleep is the greatest PED. But if you're not getting sleep, you're probably not working hard enough. If you are tired, if you give it all up in the gym at your activity, you will sleep. You'll fall asleep. I mean, you'll.
Oh man, I took a 30-minute nap, man. That's all I need. I had a little break from my morning class in my afternoon. I ate my food. I prepped my food for the next 5 hours. I took a 30-minute, got up, got in the truck. It's a recharge. It's exactly what I need. Some people work well with half an hour. Melissa needs 2 hours when she lays down. I'm actually waking up at like 27 minutes in. That's all I need. It's just enough to get me through the rest of the day. But it's massive. If I don't do it, I feel like crap for 7 more hours,
Yes. Yeah, and I think the whole world, say what you will about COVID, I won't head down that road from the whatever you feel about or think about, but the whole world kind of going on pause for a year and a half. We as strength athletes sit back and go, oh my God. I mean, there was a contest in Europe where 6 people deadlifted 1,000 pounds last summer. 6 people. 7.
At the World Championships?
I mean, and like
7 in the same show.
I was at the show, not to beat a dead horse, or if you will, repeat myself, but I was telling Rafe, I said, people don't realize in 2006, powerlifting got its first 1,000-pound deadlifter. So it's about 15 years ago, Andy Bolton. But in 2003, Andy Bolton and Gary Frank were trading the all-time deadlift record at 933, 928, like chipping it 5 pounds every fitness expo. But how many people are deadlifting 9+ now? Lightweights, probably.
We have a guy in the gym right now that does 950.
Corey's over there right now, probably going to deadlift 950.
It's amazing.
Very first day, he signed up at the gym.
220 pounds.
220. First day in the gym, comes in, 950 on the bar.
I still
Perfect
think.
deadlift.
I still think that is the best way to introduce yourself to a new gym.
All of a sudden,
Like, hey guys, I'm here.
Yep.
That's alpha.
And then never mind, I watch him and he's squatting 760, with no spot, and I'm like, this guy's an animal.
And the most humble,
Oh yeah,
nicest guy you'll ever meet.
absolutely.
That is usually the case with the strongest people. They're very humble. Very
and
humble.
quiet too, yeah. Mm-hmm. You don't ever hear Melissa bragging. I'll be the one bragging for her.
Oh,
But
yeah.
she never says anything about her lifts,
Humble to a fault,
Almost, yeah. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, right.
I make it a
And
fault.
I'll gas
I
you
make it
up.
a fault.
Let's
at
do
some
this.
point, yeah. Oh shoot!
No, absolutely.
But go ahead.
No, go.
I was just gonna say, moving on with the next shows. We're just trying to get better every single time we create an event. We want more sponsors. We want to try to add cash sponsors. We want to get prizes in it. We just want to make it the best we can. I mean, I put everything I got into it. Like I said, we don't make money at it. We put it all back into it. And, the better help that we have every time, the production just gets better each time. Can't thank the spotters and loaders enough, man, because that's a hard job. That's literally harder than doing the lifts at the event.
Oh, absolutely.
They don't get a break. They're going the whole 4 hours.
Yep. Yeah, just judging it, and being one of the officials there. I went home and took a nap afterwards.
It's work, man.
I was exhausted,
It's work.
and I've competed quite a few times, and that is still spotting, loading, and just reffing is nope. No. It's crazy. It's impressive that being a competitor and then still being able to sit on the sideline and be impressed with other competitors. That's a pretty cool feeling. I was multiple of those competitors on Saturday were extremely impressive. Adam and Crystal, I believe his wife's name is. Very impressed. I was talking to Adam before, and he's like, there's no way I'm going to get that. The farmer's 2 feet. That's all I'm doing. I'm doing 2 feet. He took it half the course, 40 feet. I told him, I said, what happened to 2 feet, man? He's like, oh, it felt good. That's impressive.
And like you always, mention, and we see every single time, is just the camaraderie. And not just in these strongman events for sure.
Yeah.
But what we see in just our local community here at Beast, as well as just Tucson or Arizona in general.
Yeah.
We got a pretty tight community, man. We can call each other Flagstaff, Phoenix. Where does the boss live?
Santan Valley,
Santan
right?
Valley. Any one of these guys will drop of the hat. We're running around to help each other. I mean, that's outstanding.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that's pretty
And
cool.
always welcoming.
Very welcome.
There's
how many-
these novice guys, hey,
Yeah.
come on in, We'll take you in and feed you and show you where to do, so.
And it's your first show. Don't be intimidated if you're going to compete. Don't be intimidated. Everyone's there to help you, especially the officials.
Yeah.
I think the perfect example of that was our first Viking Strong comp when we had Jerry Pritchett down here. Guys are running, and he's sitting there timing them, but he's also educating them at the same time. Grab it this way next time. They still warm up. I want you to grab it like this and do it. That's really cool.
Yeah, him sitting there at the stones, at the end, just cheering everybody on, while he's counting reps, but also
Get your butt back,
critiquing
get
for
your
yeah,
butt
and then they do it, and then man, it's cool to watch them come in unsure of themselves and then leave, maybe with a prize, maybe they
And
went home with the
definitely
big
hooked
axe.
and coming back
Yeah.
to do another show. And I don't think is there really any other way to do it, because how do you grow a sport if people are assholes?
Yeah.
If you got the top in the world training this first timer.
Yep.
While he's at his first event and building him up, and now he's hooked for life.
Oh, yeah.
You got to be that way.
It sticks with you. It really does,
They'll remember that forever. I mean, I remember it, and I wasn't even the one competing. I think it's just great. So.
Yep. Yeah, and still, like I said, I've competed a few times, and anytime I get the opportunity to learn from somebody who's been doing it longer, that's a good day. Even if you don't win the comp, it's a good day. Just having Marshall there, he's, again, one of those under 105s that's just
Marshall's
incredibly impressive.
International strongman, under
Yeah.
105.
Yeah, and just ridiculously good at his craft. And so having him come down, and he, again,
He's
the
I saw him
support.
out there, yeah.
He's always down at our events. He's always down to help out.
He's been down every single event.
Uh-huh.
Whether he was flying in from out of country last time, and he drove down and he was an hour late, but he was still there.
Yep.
That's incredible,
Yeah, getting to see him Saturday, he was telling us, I mean, speaking of Viking, he's going to Norway.
Yeah.
He's got a way he's getting his
Clash in
wife
Norway?
over there, and I don't know when it is, but yeah, as a pro, he's
it's in a
going
month.
he's
Yeah,
going
for
over
sure.
there, and then the last thing I saw him when we're leaving out of I left a little early. I had to go to a graduation dinner, but we're leaving out of the parking lot. I was pulling out, and I hear him, and I see him in his truck. He's like yelling to one of his teammates, he's like, "Come on, we're going to Texas Roadhouse," and he's smiling. He couldn't be happier. That guy he's infectious. How happy he is, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
The other dude's like, "No, I'm fine." He's like, "Get in the freaking truck. We're going.
We're going.
Yeah.
We're going to
It
eat.
wasn't a question.
Like
man.
Vikings. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
He makes a mean moonshine, I understand.
Yes, he does.
Sponsors your shows.
Yes, he does. And giving Marshall all his props, he's definitely one of those guys who will take anybody under his wing. Very giving in his knowledge. And I consider him one of my mentors in the sport. If I've got a question because I'm talking sponsorships or anything like that, I reach out to him. Hey, you want to do this? And I'm like, well, let me reach out to Marshall and I'll get back to you on that one.
Very good dude. He just doesn't just open his own home gym for everybody, his
Yeah.
crew that he trains 10 to 20 people, but he also has
Come
kids.
down and win our
Every
events.
Saturday he trains his 4 to 8 year olds. And They come over in groups and he runs them through some serious training. I mean, this isn't you get an award for being there type of training either. He runs them through some training, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
We need more of that.
Yeah,
nowadays.
absolutely. And having those type of people come to our events makes the competitors, because again, he's running around telling people, hey, change this, try this, switch this up. Having those types of folk there, they'll come back.
Yeah, if you watch the live stream, you'll see him out there with the clipboard coaching, and coaching as they're going down. That's just what we need,
Yep. Good ambassadors for the sport.
I think we all have to be, I think for it to be what we want it to be and to have it grow and to keep good people around all the time, we all have to try to emulate, a Jerry Pritchett or a Marshall Zinn and some of these guys that
Or even Paul here.
Paul, man. Hell yeah.
I don't think he gets enough credit
He
on
doesn't.
his on your Instagram page, and the articles that you draw up and everything. It's knowing the history of the sport, is half the battle, because then you know where you got to go, right? And then all your shout outs that you do for all the athletes and everything, that's an important ambassadorship that you really are doing. So
And is this your fourth event that you've commentated for us, or close to, third or fourth? Yeah, it's our fourth.
Yes, it'd be a year, because we started last May was my first one. The first one I went to was December of 20. I went with the two kids I trained. I trained a couple of football
So
kids.
yeah, this was
and-
your fourth one. We really
and
appreciate you.
yeah, no, I appreciate it. It was an honor to call you. I've called you in the past, your performances, and to work side by side with you. And I've watched this podcast and I've seen all the episodes, and it's awesome. And it's although I do love the old written material, and I joke I do have a million pieces of content. I have a whole room full of that stuff. But this is the new medium, and embrace it accordingly, because I love it too. I love podcasts. I love to hear what people have to say, and
We'll have you on again too, just to kind of multiple times, hopefully, just to share that information, because I think so many of us younger guys are looking toward the social media now, and the podcast to listen while we're driving to work, to listen while we're going somewhere, and man, just to have someone record it would be outstanding, you know, and just have conversations about it. You know, that's how I listen to my podcast. I'm a busy guy when I'm driving. That's when I listen.
Yeah,
You know?
and it's not all the written stuff that you have, right? Like, you've been around for a while, and you've know
Competed
a lot
for
of
30 years, right?
Yeah, you know a lot of the folks that built these sports. So that history's got to be passed on, and and like I said, if we want to know where the sport's going, you're the one that directs us to that way with the history lessons. So.
Yeah, well, and to get back to what we're talking about before, what keeps me in it, because I was away for a while, but I like to say I went like 49-1. I never missed any of my kids' activities, from varsity football to jiu-jitsu. I missed one when I had to be back east for something, but it was a Thursday, like, freshman football game. But that was my focus too. I've never not trained or been interested in competition, but when I had a family, what I did was focus on their practice schedules and their events and so forth. But I always missed. I hate to use any mafia analogies. I don't believe in it, but it's like those are the best people in the world. They'll pull you back. Once you meet them, you're like, you can't understand how these people are. You know, like my powerlifting magazine collection, which it was a guy who had been in the Navy, and his wife's get rid of that stuff, and like he gave me the first 12 years of it, and I kept it. Dennis Caholen is his name, if he's still out there. But like when I met people, like I tell you, like you were asking me earlier, I'll give you a perfect example. I grew up idolizing Kaz, right? I never met Kaz, so we were at World's Strongest Man in Las Vegas at the casino, because they did it at different. They did the events, some of them out at Prim, at State Line. They did 2 events there with the roller coaster and Buffalo Bill. So they did some there, then they did some in Vegas, and they did some under the canopy. But anyways,
Chief was there.
Chief Iron Bear.
Chief
he was
Iron
there,
Bear.
yes.
There you go. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Very much so.
What year was this?
This was 97. It was the first time he came back to the U.S., and word got around Southern California that in fact that it was there. So I said, oh, we got to go over, because the weekend before Columbus Day, they did the U.S. Strongest Man there. They shot that. That was on ESPN. Then the next week was World's Strongest Man, and the top 2 in the U.S. got into the Worlds. It was Chief Iron Bear, and it was Mark Filippi. Okay. The UNLV strength coach. But anyway, so we're at the casino, and I'm at the buffet hammering it, and I get separated from my wife, and she goes and sits, and like Bill Kazmaier comes over to her and is like, excuse me, who's that guy you're with? Like, in serious, like to this day, I'm like, you're kidding me. I'm like, he gave me a signed picture, and he said, I have it in my gym, and he sat down, of him pressing the inch, the first guy to press the inch with one. But he couldn't have been a nice guy. He sat and ate with us. I'm like, and I was starstruck. It's like,
one of your idols, never met him.
Soup couldn't be nicer.
So I had a fangirl moment with Kaz as well. Yeah, I was at the and I don't remember if it was 16 or 17's Olympia Expo, but we were over there, and he helped fit me for my my elbow sleeves at the SBD booth, and I still wear those sleeves.
Oh man!
And I was starstruck, like, oh man, Kaz is doing what?
What else are you going to sell me?
He's going to help me. I'll buy it all.
Where's that Metrix? That's good.
So just really nice guy, willing to help out and everything.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's calling these this World's Strongest Man, but I hope so, because I'm always like, should always be there.
So I think he's just got the contract for Giants Live. I think it's all the European shows. Eddie and
as a lead official.
The lead commentator?
Commentator.
Yeah, it's Eddie, and I always forget the little gentleman's name. And then Terry Hollins is
blonde guy. He's always into. He was a good
British
pro
guy?
too. Yes, yeah. They always, I know, tip of my tongue, but they're really good. Tim in England. I know Kaz just bought a house in Hawaii. Oh, just moved into it like within the last month. His social media. So his another fan, and because I was getting messages from him, and
I knew it was a scam then.
I have a little, and so, but I messaged him back, right, and I'm like, "What's your best numbers?" And he didn't get back to me, but then Kaz did.
No way.
Because if 925, 661, 887. I'm like, he's like, I'm back, Paul. I was like, I showed it to everybody. I'm like, Kaz just, because I got to see him again at Jerry Pritchett brought him over to do a seminar in 2016, which I went and attended, and then I wrote an article for Mark Bell's Power magazine, but it's more Kaz talking about, his dad used to throw bricks at him. You'll never amount to anything and stuff. His story is amazing. If you ever, I can't not listen to it. He's such a polished speaker, but yeah, he's a I'm glad we've had that moment. I'll have to. I'm gonna next time at the gym. I'm gonna brush up against those elbow sleeves. Like,
Yeah.
Hey, Troy, how you doing?
I don't think I've washed them yet.
Even better.
Just never washing these.
Amazing.
Yeah. No, you know, it's got to be worth something. No, and the fact that these athletes in these sports, even if we never met them, they touch us like
Brian Shaw.
and
I've never met him, but I'm like, love that guy.
the biggest person I've ever met in my life, the nicest person I've ever met.
That's what they all say.
So, again, another fangirl moment. So I met him at the 16 or 17, same one I met Kaz at the Olympia Expo. Just stood in line and met him. But then this year I went down to the Beer Stone competition down in Texas, and he was there because he was the lead sponsor of the event, and stood there and talked to him for quite a while. And he helped fit me for my new support belt. So I think I'm just going to make it a thing. Any awesome people I meet, they're just going to have to help me get my equipment right.
Oh, man.
It was him and his wife, and talked to Carrie and I. His wife's name is Carrie as well. But talked to Carrie and I for 30, 40 minutes, until we realized the line started behind us. And I was like, I'm so sorry to do that, man. And he's like, it's all right,
Yeah, and I think now, like, I don't watch that much TV, but I'll watch YouTube, and I love it's almost like when we start before we got into lifting. I mean, the first reality show, the first documentary was Pumping Iron. And you can't have that footage enough. Supposedly, Arnold bought 100 hours of that and parked it somewhere because maybe there's some politically incorrect things when he was running for governor that they might have chirped a little. Maybe. I want to see that footage, right? Who wouldn't watch an hour, 100 hours of them training Franco? But the camaraderie that you saw in that gym, I think you see that when like Brian Shaw flies them out to Colorado to train, or when they have, Martin Lises. There's certain ones, and Zavickas trains on his own. You get something from their social media, but it's definitely replaced the magazines. But you see, I love when you see those guys get together, because if you're not enjoying the journey, that's what people from the outside don't see until they walk into a place like Beast. Like, man, these guys all get along. There's no attitudes. They respect the heck out of what they're doing, regardless of their discipline. Once you're in that, you can. To me, I could never get away from it. You know what I'm saying? And when your competitive years, if you're on there's a bell curve, but if you can't appreciate people and go, whoa, I'm right at this stage now where the women are going to be out lifting. I'm like, right on. right on.
I'm already at the stage. Some of these women are out lifting me.
Yeah, they're closing in on 700-pound deadlift.
I trade with one every friggin' day.
Inez,
pound for pound. I mean,
Inez is putting
don't
up
do that to me.
315 on the log now.
what are you? You're not
Just
double
ruined
body
you,
weight.
right?
Come on.
It used to be like I got a double.
on,
lifts.
honey.
Now I'm like, you know what? You're doing
I'll do
great.
5
Keep
more
going.
reps. It's
Yeah.
fine.
No, but going back to where you feel touched by these pros, we have so much more social influence that we can see in our tablets, in our phones, on our computers every single minute of the day. And they're making updates, and you're just following them like a little kid in a candy store. You feel like you know them. And if they continue to do their job like Brian Shaw does and Kaz does, when they actually meet you, they're a mirror of what you thought they were. That's even better. It sucks when you go up to meet one of these guys and they're having an off day. You just really can't have an off day as a pro or any sort of influence. I mean, you yourself, you, me, any one of us, right? Because it's like they just get turned off, and all of a sudden,
What do they say? Never meet your idols, right?
They could disappoint you. Yeah.
Never meet your idols.
But what about
Luckily
meeting your
in our-
idols that freaking are
I
awesome?
think in our community, though, that's not true. I've met a couple bodybuilders. Stan Efferdine, I met him. Met Tom Platz. They're exactly what you picture them as and what they represent
because
themselves out.
they're totally genuine individuals. Everybody has bad days. I'm sure you're going to meet somebody like,
sure.
just give them the benefit
Especially a
of the doubt.
bodybuilder at the end of his prep.
Yeah.
You run into him, low carb day.
You catch me when I'm
might.
training about 4 weeks out.
We'll
We'll just leave it at that.
So you gotta.
Well, because one thing about strength athletes, whatever iron discipline is we don't like to waste time. I'm good, but like if I've told you to do something that you've approached me, I've helped you. But if I see you do the same thing 6 times and you come up to me in the gym, I'm not as warm because you're not listening. You're not respecting my time. I took time to say,
What
do
do we
this,
call
do
them?
that.
Assholes.
Yes.
Those are assholes.
And then also at the same time, when the dude you're looking at is in the middle of his training session, You wait by the exit door until he's all the way good and done. Do not go interrupt any lifter during his sets. And if he does want to talk to you during his sets, he ain't the right lifter to be talking to.
Yeah.
In any discipline, in my opinion. Because you're only going to frustrate them. You're probably not going to get the right feedback that you wanted from that professional or that individual you were talking to. And you give him the risk of injury. If he's not staying warm and he has a 5-minute break and he goes back into a bench press, he could tear a pec. I mean, the shit has happened.
Right.
I'm not making this up. This has happened.
Sure.
So, just be have common sense that some of us don't have. Have that common sense when you're walking into a place like that. I think that's super key. I'm in my prep right now, so I'm getting a little bit more. I'm feeling this stuff. So when people come right into me, I'm like, hey, just give me 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I said 2 o'clock. I've just got 15 minutes. I'll be there at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, that is the cool thing I think about our gym environment is, we all keep track of who's doing what, right? Like we know that Steve's got a comp in a couple weeks, so we know where his mindset's going to be at. When Vinny's, a couple weeks out from his, we know where his mindset goes to. When we know Melissa's getting ready for Olympia, we know leave her alone. We'll talk to her in 3 months. Just let her get her shit done. So.
And I get that very much that way.
Oh, yeah.
When I'm training.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will give you 100% of my time, but not when I'm training.
Yeah.
And I might say, fuck off if you talk to me when I'm training. I give me that time.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Well,
get
you're
injured.
at work.
I'm at work, man. I'm doing my job.
You're doing it. So, and I think our environment, and the new members, I think that they kind of learn that.
Well, and we're blessed because people that come into our facility kind of have an idea already. They're already graduating from, entry level into fitness for the most part. And they're ready, that's not for me. Let's get into something a little bit more serious.
Yeah.
So we're kind of blessed in the sense that the individuals coming into our gym for the majority have a higher work ethic, you might say.
We have a lot of serious lifters.
Whether they're competing or not.
Exactly. And in whatever discipline they're serious in, they are serious in that, Could be, that new mom who's just trying to lose the baby weight. We've had that before. But they're
Headphones
serious.
in,
They're
getting in there,
serious
getting it
about
done.
that task, So it's not social hour all the time, That's why you throw the barbecues. We'll have social hour 2 times a year.
We'll have the events where we have the vendors there, the
Yeah.
food there, last time to chit chat. Yeah.
Yeah. And that, going back, that's that community. You build that community. Everybody's involved. Everybody supports everybody, so.
And everybody's understanding. I mean, everybody really is. Understanding of guys prepping into shows. They need people there to spot them. I mean, we'll hang around for another hour or two.
Yeah.
Make sure that they get their squats in, get their benches in and stuff like that. So
Put it up on your story. Hey, I got squats this time, this night, and need some spotters, and I'm from the video, people showed up,
people show up, man.
because they understand, So
they want to help. People want to be a part of a good culture, right?
Well, and you've been around many gyms, I assume, right? Mm-hmm. And that's those serious lifters and that camaraderie in that community. Is it as common as it should be, in your opinion?
Well, right now, I've seen, I've lived in Tucson 14 years. So when I first got to Tucson, there was the first month I got here, World's Gym on first close because someone said, "Oh, go over there." There was no option. So I always had my own setup in my garage, but I didn't go too far out of my way. I mean, there was Power Physique. I became friends with John Pena because I was living out of a suitcase before I relocated for about 6 months. So I trained with him back, but it was kind of sporadic. But, I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. Like when I moved to Southern California in '91, I thought it was going to be like pumping iron. And
It was not?
it was not. So I built a barbell club in my garage. When I had 7 guys everybody could squat over 700, everybody could bench 400, everybody could deadlift 700. We were the best gym in SoCal going up into the late
And it was
90s.
in the garage.
It was in my 2-car garage in Yorba Linda. People would come from all over the county, Orange County, but it was rare we would go. Sometimes there was a place called LA Lifting Club that opened up, which Scott Mendelson, the all-time bench press record holder, but that was way in Burbank. So we'd kind of they had nice equipment, but it was just too far out of the way. And you'll probably, if you wondering, if you've ever seen that movie Rocky Balboa, where he comes back and fights in his mid-50s, that where they filmed that lifting scene, that's LA Lifting Club. That was right before they closed it. It's like a red painted gym, but I mean, I've been in gyms all over I lived in Dallas, so I was a member of Metroflex Gym. I know what it's like to see Ronnie Coleman, Branch Warren, Johnny Jackson, a lot of strong guys there. Dallas had so many strong gyms. I mean, they had a place called Stroud's up the street that was, but I mean, Beast to me is wherever I've been. So I've been in gyms since the 80s, but it's always that culture of people that makes you like, oh, that once they see that you're serious and that you also respect them. It's about respect, not just either stay out of their way, help, or make yourself better. Then they can be like, oh, this is, and the weights don't lie.
Right.
Oh, there's 3 plates. There's
like
4
you
plates.
just said about Corey. Walks in our gym, first day 950. That dude's good. He's quiet. He does his shit. Gets out. Doesn't get anybody's way. Says hi if you want.
I'll take 10 more just like him.
Just get more of that. And that's essentially what we started here. Was I wanted to start. I actually started a garage gym 6 months before I started this gym. And I started buying all this equipment, getting the racks and the bales, and I'm like, just for me and a couple of buddies. No, let's get this in a place where at least a couple people can pay for the lights and stuff, And it was just for Melissa and I and a couple of close group of friends. I think there was 30 of us when we opened. And I was like, okay, that's enough to pay for the space at the time. And now we're, 5 times bigger. But it's still that garage style, that same style you're talking about, but we're allowing more people to come in and join it,
Just a bigger garage.
Yeah. And I look at it kind of as the family tree. If you watch like football, they'll say the coaching tree, right? So in SoCal, we had our tight group, and there's God rest his soul, there's a guy named Chuck LaMancha who he had announced like 30 years of powerlifting contests, and he DJ'd it. It was really good. We loved him. He passed away last year, but he'd come to us. He said, I got a guy for you. We'd be like, what's his name? Like Josh Bryant. We're like, all right. And then he came. Everybody, if you know who Josh Bryant is, Jailhouse Strong. I look at it like that now. So Josh would drive 146 miles one way to come to my house to squat. Santa Barbara. His dad was a principal at a school up there, so he'd have like one of those old diesel Mercedes. But Josh would come to my house, and actually 2 blocks from my house was a 7-Eleven. So I'd go down there beforehand to get ice and Red Bulls, and Josh would come bounding out of the door. He's like, I won't even go to the bathroom at your house, Paul. I go there. It's all planned. He was so respectful. Became one of the youngest guy to bench 600 raw. Julius Maddox coach. He programmed during the pandemic. He programmed Brian Shaw.
Okay.
So I look by that. It's like, man, we had and Josh he's paid tribute to me in some ways on some of his social media and so forth. But what he's done is amazing with the evolution of powerlifting, and he's worked with some strongmen. So you pay it back. Like people realize that there's nothing better than talking about your proteges and referencing your mentors and like you said in the medley. Like I'd die before I'd quit in front of my training partners. You know what I'm saying? I passed out. I lost consciousness time. Like, how was that, guys?
That hit them?
Yeah.
He just never stood back up with it.
I'll show you.
I think that was always kind of rare, but I think it's even more rare now. People that want to put their all in till they pass out. Not saying that's a good thing to do, but I'm just saying give it your all every time you're in the gym, like Ronnie Coleman, like Branch Warren, like Johnny Jackson. Got some young kids doing it now. We got Martine Fitzwater. He's training down at Metroflex right now, and he lifts with Branch Warren still right now to this day. He's 24 years old. An animal, just like Branch is, and his training partner, I forget his name, terrible, but same way, just kicking ass every single day. Puking every single day. I mean, they're doing what it takes to reach that level every single freaking day. Wish we could see more of that. I know we push sometimes. If I walk out of the gym like, man, you know what? I could have had one more fucking rep on that. I'm pissed that I didn't do it. Yep. And I do that every freaking day in the gym. And people don't worry about it. I mean, how serious you want to be. I just like to see, we started this gym for the serious people. We allow everyone to be here. But I mean, the real fun of it for us is the really serious people. The guy, and you could be brand new. Just be serious. Yeah. Just give it your all. I don't care if you're not the strongest person in the world. I wanted to see you came in and you gave it your all,
So, and I would say that's probably maybe my biggest pet peeve in the strength world right now is exactly that.
Not just strength world, right? Powerlifting especially. I've seen it a lot.
And you have some people come in and they go, well, I'm going to be the world's strongest man someday.
I'm gonna
okay,
be
bud,
Mr. Olympia.
what are you going to do to get there, though? You know, and then you watch them and you're like, I promise you, none of the top guys, you know, trained that, you know, inconsistently, that light, that, you know, and they don't push themselves, and, you know, but yet every day they come in, oh, I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be the best. And then they, you know, come in and half-ass the workout. And, you know, that's probably my biggest pet peeve. Come in, if you just want to improve yourself, do that. But don't tell everybody that you're going to do something that you're incapable of, I guess, right? Or not willing to put yourself out there for.
Yeah, it's kind of I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
But we're all born with different you know, and we all have different backgrounds. We all have different ways we're programmed to think, and you know, and just God given, we were born with certain ways we think, right? Some of us were made to have it. Some of us weren't, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But you're just saying, just don't let us know about it.
Well, right, like, I
Just
mean,
do it. Just show us. We don't want to hear it.
saying you're going to do it isn't going to get you there.
Right.
Putting in that work is going to get you there, you know, and that's I think that is, I will say, my biggest pet peeve of the strength world right now is,
You know, and we've seen a lot of that with the powerlifting in the last, I would say, 10 to 15 years, where, you know, powerlifters were freaking refrigerators like you in the 90s. You know what I mean? Big dudes. And then it kind of got to where any CrossFitter could do it, and they were a powerlifter, which I have no problem with.
put a
that.
singlet on your powerlifter.
Yeah, I mean, I think there should be. You're just a lifter until you've proven numbers on a platform. Maybe, I don't know. I guess it's good. It's good. I mean, it's a business. We got to build the business. We got to bring people in. They have to start somewhere.
Yeah, it's a necessary evil.
It's a necessary, and that goes with any business, right?
Sure.
And I think that's why we do it. I mean, we were a 2,000 square foot hardcore facility with 30 people, but people wanted to come in. We're a business. We're going to grow and suit people's needs as we grow as a business. We're still going to have the hardcore. That's not going away. But we'll also add all of this as well, you know. And you know, this is my way of giving back, doing these events, because we don't make money at them, but eventually we may. And it's fine. But that's our way of giving. When you coach, that's giving back. You know, just like you were saying, and hopefully in 20 or 30 years, guys are talking about us like you're talking about Kaz, and you know,
Yeah.
Amy and Brian Shaw, man, he's my age, you know, and you're, you know, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, when you coach, you really master the subject because you got to teach back. You got to articulate. You might know it, but it makes you stop and think as I'm explaining it to somebody. You know what I'm saying?
It's two different things for sure.
Right. But you're exactly right. I mean, it's very rare you see someone you have to say, hey, you better hold yourself back.
Yeah.
I'm like, nope, that's not quite there yet. You know what I'm saying?
How many of those do we have in our gym?
Well, to me, and you can count, and you know, you see everybody better than me, but like, there's stages, okay, right? Like,
Absolutely.
like when I was laying my base, the old school breathing squat program. Like I used to in college, I used to do 315 for sets of 20 in the squat, nice and deep, and I squatted 600 officially by the time I was out of college. The two, you know, two sides of the spectrum, if you will, but you can't flex bone,
Right.
If you can't go down and up. Which that was about 80 pounds more than my body weight. I was a 242er in college. If you can't go down and up for 20 good squats, you know what I'm saying? Like if you come in the gym, you 135 for 20. In a year, if you're not doing 225 for 20, you're probably never going to be a big, strong person or mentally tough.
Right.
It's mental toughness.
I think it's
you know?
the mental toughness. Absolutely.
Yeah, it sucks, but it sucks. But I think what you're relating is very eloquently, Rafe, is that like the hardcore gym environment is like no other, probably about like a fight camp, but a fight camp's so brutal in MMA school, because there's more drastic injuries or someone gets knocked out or something. It's way more drastic. Lifting, it should build you up productively, you know, to a point. And then once you get to a point, I think past intermediate, this is where I've had multiple surgeries, like you fly too close to the sun like Icarus. I wish I could have. The great Larry Pacifico, 9-time world champion, said the key to training is not maximally, not doing as much as you can, and not minimally, because you'll be a pile of shit. It's optimally. How do you get to the RPA of 9 that you might be able to get one more rep?
That's why I like to use the word intensity. You know, are you intense when you train? And there can be an argument on intensity.
That could
the
be weight,
definition of
reps.
intensity.
That could be mental. That could be
Right. But are you bringing all of that?
Yeah.
Are you bringing the intensity for that set, for that individual, with
your
that
goal.
weight to reach your goal?
Yep.
That's all I'm looking for.
Right.
Someone that gives their all. And that doesn't mean you have to go grab a 500-pound deadlift when you're a 300-pound deadlifter. No, that means with 300 pounds, you make it the best it's ever looked.
Yeah.
And then you go 305 and the next time you try, right? That's what I'm talking about. So, and I got some gals, that are very strong. And then we got some beginners that are like, the intensity and their work ethic and their drive, that's what I love. Those are the most fun people to work with, people that want to be there, want to learn, want to push themselves, want to fail, but they won't. They'll just keep going. That's what I like to see. That's the enjoyment as a coach. And then you got the ones that just want to pay you to talk. Hey, man, I'm a good talker. I'll sit here all day and talk to you. But, Sean, where are we at?
We're at 1 hour and 5 minutes and 35 seconds.
We got to go.
That's a wrap, folks. But anyway, we also want to shout out Sean for the production on these events, and we're constantly growing and improving. He's growing his arsenal of tools for sure, and we're just refining the work on them. Yeah, we all started with the cell phone, so we appreciate you.
Yeah.
And,
Powerlifting Illustrated. on Instagram.
Powerlifting History Illustrated
Yes,
is my
History
Instagram.
Illustrated.
Please give me a follow.
Yep.
Looking forward to future podcasts with you folks. It's an honor to be on with you. Appreciate it.
Sean's the American Outlaw on Instagram.
Troy Shanks 275.
There it is.
Used to,
The good old days. The good old days.
yeah, no, I live in the past.
Well, remember, he just said he got to bring his weight back down to
You know?
275 to be competitive.
It's my goal. It's the carrot.
It was a goal to get there, and now it's a goal to get back to.
Do you remember when we were like celebrating?
It's a milestone.
Doing like 250 on a log press. Like, that was that was a feat all of us wanted.
Absolutely.
Now it's 350.
Now it's 350.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to hit 400.
Or
this
that
year.
Austrian
Now it's
oak.
400.
My goodness, that Austrian oak's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's over 400.
Rafe
Well, thank you,
Boss on
gentlemen.
Instagram.
Well, you're Rafe Boss 1 on Instagram, but just follow the Be Strong Powerhouse page on YouTube. Please send your buddies over to subscribe to the YouTube page. We have a lot of educational videos on there. We got the podcasts, and we have some of the Boss and the Beast training into our shows. So that's a
Couple
series
big
that
shows
we just
coming up.
started. But yeah, all of that's Be Strong Powerhouse spelled out.
Yeah, if you're watching this, you have about 20 weeks till Static Monster, so plenty enough time to run a training cycle or stop by the gym, and it's the log press and the deadlift.
18-inch deadlift. Yep.
18
So
inch
it's
deadlifts
and
from an axle bar.
Troy and I were just talking. One of the front runners currently in World's Strongest Man after the first day qualified for World's Strongest Man doing that Static Monster. So it's an international event. The boss's wife's done it before.
I think it's the best event if someone is looking to get into strongman.
Absolutely.
It's a great
Two
introductory.
events, because instead of doing like one of like 5 events or 6 events, it's 2 events. Everybody can train those 2 events.
Absolutely.
It's 2 staples for sure.
Yep. And, my first year doing it, I was on the roster with Zadruna Zavickas. It's an international, and a lot of like big names show up. So it's definitely a fun one to do. Get the T-shirt.
Chad
get
Croft
on
out of Australia started about 7 years ago. I think this is our 7th year, I believe.
I think that's right.
And this is our 3rd year in Arizona. Jerry Pritchett had a year or 2 before us, so he decided not to, so we took it over, and we'll continue it. It's been a great event. But all right, guys, that's a wrap. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Started sweating at about 30 minutes in, so I'm like, we got to be getting close here. Oh, my fucking...
It happens every time.